Disclaimer, I do not dislike CinemaSins, and that is not a lie. For my next Everything Wrong with CinemaSins video, I'm going to be seeing their video on Jumanji, and like in the Robots video, I'm doing this video in memory of Robin Williams. Enjoy the video, everybody.
Man, they sure did go all in on the make the kids look dirty makeup. Did they dig that hole with their faces?
Well, considering the fact that they dug a pretty deep hole, it makes sense to me why their faces would be dirty.
Get up! Were all these bullies seriously hiding out behind the statue in anticipation of Alan riding by? How do they know his schedule so well? This is an absurd amount of reconnaissance to plan an otherwise standard nerd beating.
Yeah, they all were hiding behind the statue, and the main reason why this is happening is so that the audience can learn who Billy Jessup is.
We're just friends. Not anymore.
So you're saying she's my girlfriend now? Sweet! Wait, why do you still look angry?
Maybe because they don't get along with each other?
Also, I thought Alan was super psyched to run away, and the appearance of Sarah didn't even deter him, but now he's ready to abandon the entire plan just to play this game.
Yeah, that's what the movie's showing us here.
Roll the dice to move your token, doubles gets another turn, and the first player to reach the end wins. You want to play?
I understand there's some magical influence here, but this sounds like a boring game. The instructions just say to roll the dice and move your so why would Alan be so excited about playing?
Earlier, the film showed Alan being interested in the game, but he had to hide it when his parents showed up to tell him about the Cliffside School. So I think that answers your question.
I quit playing board games 5 years ago.
What was behind Sarah's hilariously specific board game embargo? Did she have a traumatic Candyland incident? Was there an ankle injury related to chutes and ladders?
I don't think it matters. If the movie is telling us that that's part of who Sarah is, then that's what it's telling us.
These bat holes wait to attack Sarah until after Alan's turn, and after he's sucked into the game, probably because they've been trained in cinematic timing.
Or maybe it's to add more to her fear or layer trauma, considering this happens right after she sees Alan get sucked into the game.
I'm going to Motel 6.
This is Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the product placement on for you.
Jeremy says something random cliche.
That's an African bat. Some kid said you saw a bunch of those back in the 60s.
Really moving? 26 years later, and a random expositional exterminator happens to remember some kid saying she saw the same kind of bat? What's worse is that it's not even exposition we need.
I wouldn't call this exposition because the exterminator is just simply recalling a memory, not comprehensively explaining something.
Also, how does a kid scared out of his mind give detailed enough information to identify the species of a winged creature of death that came after them, let alone two kids 26 years apart? Also, if the bat that Peter saw was one of the ones Sarah saw back in 1969, how is that bat still alive 26 years later? Do all the animals that come out of Jumanji live forever? Do they have the ability to reproduce?
Well, considering that this is how long a bat usually lives for, it makes sense to me why those bats would still be alive.
Lilith was able to get this place in tip-top shape by herself within a day?
Yes.
Notice how Monopoly is at the bottom of the other stack. That's because Monopoly, much like Jumanji, tears people's lives apart.
Notice how Jeremy is just pointing something out on the screen here.
Back in 1869, they had to bury the out of this game to prevent it from endangering anyone else. But it's been hanging out up here for 26 years without any problem until now.
Later on in the film, after Alan is released from the game, Judy tells him that the house has been empty for years. So it makes sense why the game wasn't found for 26 years.
Let's bring it over here.
Sure, it's a cool box, but there's no way the kids would know that this game is the source of the drumming noise that terrified them mere moments ago.
It makes sense to me because the drums continued before they found it, and after they found it, the drums stopped immediately. So I think Judy and Peter would have put two and two together and figured out that the drums were coming from that particular game.
How did they know to look for information from the magic green circle? There was no reason for them to be leaning in here, or really to assume anything is about to happen.
Oh, I guess the text appearing in the center that you're literally showing on screen here isn't a reason for them to be looking at it, huh?
Jesus Christ, these murderous, marauding monkeys, man.
Yeah, that's how you're pretty much supposed to feel about it.
The instructions say if we finish the game, it'll all go away.
We've only had mosquitoes and monkeys so far. Why not stop the game here before it gets worse? Unless the animals are completely indestructible and impervious to animal control, monkeys and a few giant mosquitoes seem pretty easy to manage, right? Sure, later on we discovered the mosquitoes are making people sick, but Judy doesn't know that.
Well, apart from the mosquito bites being severe, the monkeys also wreak havoc on the town and end up stealing Carl's car and a police motorcycle. And on top of that, if Judy and Peter chose to stop playing the game, we would otherwise not have a movie.
It takes movie nearly 30 minutes to finally mork.
And it takes Jeremy nearly 6.5 minutes to make another pop culture reference.
We live here now.
Where's my mom and dad?
This house has been empty for years.
Wait, this isn't a big leg situation where Alan wakes up as a grown man. He's been living inside the game for 26 years and could clearly note the passage of time.
Not exactly, because when Alan gets out of the game, he doesn't immediately realize that he was in there for 26 years. This is why when he runs into Carl shortly afterwards, he asks him what the current year is and is shocked to learn that he was trapped for 26 years.
Looks like Alan never outgrew his running out into a busy street without looking habit.
But this is the only time we see this in the film, so how can you be sure that's a habit Alan has?
When it comes to the monkey CGI in this movie, I'm guessing the CG stands for complete garbage.
As I've said many times before, just because you feel that way about it does not mean that others also do, meaning this sin will receive my award.
When his kid ran away, Sam put everything he had into trying to find him. I don't think anybody loved his boy more than Sam did.
Random homeless dude is extremely knowledgeable about the family dynamic between Sam and Alan.
And the reason why he knows what happened to Sam in the shoe factory is because he was a former employee there.
Ooh, nice boots, Mrs. Thomas. But don't you want something a little comfier for the ambulance ride? That's more like it.
Sitting something you like.
We're fine. He can't get us in here. He can't get through the glass.
Is Alan a seasoned vet at fighting all the creatures in the game, or is he this comic relief? He was a badass when facing down the lion earlier, but now he's freaked out about a fucking bug?
Well, he's nervous about the bug for 2 reasons. The first is that he, Judy, and Peter saw Mrs. Thomas taken away to the hospital due to a mosquito bite, showing that their bites are very serious. And the second is that this mosquito is proving to be smarter than he thought, since it's able to break through the glass in the car tarp roof.
Realtor lady's car keys were left in the ignition, and her car in the middle of the road. Did the guys in the ambulance call for any kind of backup to get the wreck cleared away? Or do a few giant mosquitoes get the same martial law treatment as a zombie apocalypse?
Well, even if they did, it wouldn't have mattered because they took the car right after the paramedics put Mrs. Thomas in the ambulance. So if someone did come for the car, it'd have been for nothing.
Whoa, did they have a barber training course in Alan's jungle? Cause that's a pretty stellar self-cut.
I thought this was pretty cool, so I'll go ahead and give it a sin.
I've seen things you've only seen in your nightmares.
Ah, so Alan saw an early cut of Bicentennial Man.
Jeremy says something random, cliche.
Look, I know that they've gotta have Sally to play the game, but did they really need to kidnap her from her own home? Also, sure, it was shocking for her to see Alan alive, but they didn't drug her, right? She stayed passed out on this entire trip back to the parish house?
Yeah, that's what the movie's showing us here.
Harvest time!
Wait, that's it? They just had to free Peter from the one pod in the vine system to get out of the immediate danger? What the hell are the actual rules for this game? In one roll, you can get just a brief but ultimately harmless vegetation attack, and in the next one, you're banished to the jungle for 26 years?
This is actually more about how the characters reacted to the dangers of the game, not how the dangers present themselves. For this danger, Peter likely would have died if the sword that Alan used to save him wasn't there, like Jay Exci said in his video for this film. As for Alan, he was in the game for 26 years, not because the game says so, but because nobody found the game for all those years.
Oh my god! My car!
How long has Carl been looking for his cruiser? Alan and the kids have gone to the factory, discovered his parents are dead, stolen a car, taken a nap, went through the lecture about how dangerous this is, went to find Sarah, kidnapped her, and then fought the magical vine. But Carl's just now finding his car?
I don't think Carl has just been looking for his car this whole time. I think he's been distracted by people who need help from the jungle animals invading the town, and then he just happened to find his car.
Don't look back!
In addition to training at Juilliard, Robin Williams attended the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things.
But they run into another room to avoid getting crushed, so they didn't exactly attend the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things.
So Alan tracked this bird based on just knowing it would go towards water, and he somehow found it this quickly?
If that's what the movie is saying happened, then that's what happened.
Okay, fine, maybe living in the jungle 26 years taught you this skill, but convenient fish is still convenient. Also, how did this f***er survive as a kid inside the Jumanji jungle? This kid gets beat up by 6th graders. What chance did he have against all the creatures that live inside the game?
Aside from the fact that a movie's protagonist typically does not die, see the previous sin.
This works.
Well, this isn't exactly something impossible that Judy's doing, since what she's doing here isn't exactly really hard to do.
God damn it, not only are these fucking monkeys able to operate the clutch of this motorcycle, despite none of them being able to reach it, they've also figured out how to operate the siren.
Yeah, so?
I could have shot you at any moment.
Then why didn't you?
You didn't roll the dice. Alan did.
But the fucking monkeys are screwing with everyone, and Peter's the one that rolled them. The giant mosquitoes didn't seem to care who they were stinging. Judy rolled the stampede, and it's fucking up the whole town. There is no reason for Van Pelt to have such a huge killing boner for Alan.
Jeremy makes an inappropriate comment, cliche.
Ah, remember the 90s when we all thought things chaotically crashing into lots of other things was hilarious and exciting? Yeah, me neither.
Okay, so what makes that a problem with this movie?
How do you escape certain death when you've painted yourself into a corner? A latex machina, of course.
But this isn't a Deus Ex Machina because the movie shows us Alan and Carl driving to the store, meaning the solution to this problem was already shown.
Why would you get out of the car? Alright, another lazy setup for a not funny gag involving a monkey.
That's just your opinion on this gag, so this will be getting my award.
I'm not saying this magical vine couldn't compact this police cruiser like this. I'm just saying, why would it want to? And also that it couldn't.
But the movie is saying that it can.
Alan, you wrestled an alligator for me.
It's a crocodile. Alligators don't have that little fringe on the handling.
Rather than kiss the love interest, Alan chooses to mansplain the difference between alligators and crocodiles.
I wouldn't call this mansplaining because Sarah didn't already know the difference between an alligator and a crocodile.
Okay, help me.
Never thought I'd find the effects in Flubber to be fantastically realistic, but compared to this, it's a masterpiece.
For the second time in this video, you're just stating your opinions on the CGI in this movie, which means that this sin will get my award too.
Sack's gag was actually pretty clever, so please, Peter Monkeytail, ruin it by breaking the fourth wall. Thanks.
But that's intended to be part of the gag, so it shouldn't be ruined by it.
Considering the amount of hair on these hands, I guess Alan was also cursed with the monkey virus.
He wasn't, and even if he was, he wouldn't have turned into a monkey. Alan's game piece is the elephant, so if he cheated, he would have turned into an elephant, not a monkey, which was Peter's game piece.
As Alan makes his final roll, now is as good a time as any to recognize exactly how little this movie has cared about game continuity. In fact, I actually wrote a 917...
Next.
Oh, great gravy on Mashed Potato Mountain. Time travel? Movie can't even handle the rules of its own game, let alone the complexity that goes along with resetting a timeline.
I'd say that the movie can handle it because Alan and Sarah started the game in 1969, so the game is taking them back to where it all began. And you're getting 1 sin for each of those points.
Qu'est-ce que c'est ce bruit?
I swear to God, if Dwayne Johnson isn't wearing a beret and eating croissants in the sequel, I'm calling bullshit.
And he doesn't do that in Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, and yet you don't bring that up in your video on that movie. And just so you know, I'm sending that video next. And here's the end result, everybody. The sin total was 196, and the sentence will be sucked into the game. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have a happy new year.